Welcome. This is Professor Gerda Pujol, and welcome again to the legal and ethical environment of business. I began with a little portion of the song Loyalty by Kendrick featuring Rihanna, two performers that I really adore and love. And I love that song Loyalty because we're going to be talking about virtue ethics. And I think loyalty, right, is a great example of what we mean by virtue ethics. Now, this idea of virtue and as ethical conduct being equivalent to being a virtuous person, it goes back to Aristotle, it goes back to ancient Greece. And the basic idea here is that ethics is not about the outcome of your behavior. It's really about the kind of person you are. It's about attaining a status of excellence. And so a virtuous person is someone who does virtuous things. A good example of this, actually the way Aristotle illustrated this is the idea of a golden mean or moderation. Because we want to know then, how do you be virtuous? How do you become virtuous? And the essence is, well, and I'm simplifying of course, but the essence is, well, you avoid extremes. Think of courage, right? That is a mean or a golden mean or a midpoint between two extremes. On the one hand, cowardice, and on the other hand, recklessness, right? A courageous person is someone who's right there down in the middle. So the idea of virtue, again, is you're a virtuous person. I'd like to actually go back, if any of you are into politics, and you may recall, I think it was the last or next to last Republican presidential debate during the Republican primaries back in, I think, spring of 2016. And at one point, the candidates, there were down to 4 candidates. Trump, who now, of course, is our president, Senator Cruz, Senator Rubio, and Governor Kasich. And they were all asked, are you going to support your pledge? Are you going to keep your word? Are you going to support your pledge to support whoever becomes the eventual presidential nominee? And Senator Cruz gave a very interesting answer. He said that he would because he gave his word. And what I like about that answer in terms of ethics is that I think it's a nice demonstration of virtue ethics. Sort of a virtuous man, a virtuous person is someone when they give their word, they keep their promises. Virtue ethics, very attractive theory. Fancy term for this is archaic ethics, A-R-T-A-I-C. There's some problems though with the virtue ethics. This is why I'm going to introduce to you 2 different theories of ethics to compare and contrast with. One problem with virtue ethics is that not all moral values seem to be susceptible to the analysis of the golden mean of moderation. Go back to promise breaking or telling the truth. Generally, we think of these as sort of the paradigmatic moral virtues, moral conduct. However, there's no mean between telling a lie or telling the truth. Either you tell the truth or you don't. Same thing with keeping a promise, right? And there may be circumstances that may require you to maybe tell a lie or break your promise, external circumstances or whatever, but you either keep your word or you don't. Another real problem with virtue ethics is that some have said it's circular. For example, if you want to be a virtuous person, right, you have to have virtue. But in order to have virtue, you have to be a virtuous person. So it doesn't really give us any specific guidance. Now, I mentioned these criticisms not to debunk virtue ethics. I think it's a very important theory of ethics, and I think it's something we all perhaps try to live by, right? A virtuous person, if given the ring of Gyges, is not going to go and do a bunch of bad things just because they're invisible and can't be caught. But when you dig down and you want to try to discover what virtue is, it can become problematic. And so in my next 2 videos, I want to introduce to you 2 different theories of ethics: consequentialism or utilitarian ethics, and Kantian ethics, or the idea of moral duties. Thank you for your attention, and see you soon.